They don't pull any punches there. The critique is it's fundamental. They say the academic system transition. It went from teaching how to think,
Critical reasoning, logic, debate.
right, the tools. It transitioned to strictly teaching what to think. A fixed set of facts and approved narratives.
So it's less about education and more like job training.
Exactly. The source material views the system's purpose as training people to, and this is a direct quote, go out into the workforce to make someone else rich and not complain about it.
That's a pretty damning indictment of the whole model.
It is. It's seen as being designed for conformity, not innovation.
Okay, so let's give you a really concrete example of how this kind of institutional complexity and potential corruption plays out. The sources point to the recent push for new climate rules.
The tracking of Scope 3 emissions.
Right. Explain what that is, because it's fantastically complicated.
It is. So Scope 3 emissions are all the indirect greenhouse gases in a company's value chain. It's everything. Your supplier's factory, your employee's commute, how your product gets used and thrown away.
It sounds almost impossible to track accurately.
It's incredibly difficult and prohibitively expensive. The source material notes these new SEC compliance rules could mean a very big payday for Biden's buddies, simply because the cost of compliance is just astronomical.
What kind of numbers are we talking about?
The estimates suggest companies will spend a minimum of $460,000.
A minimum.
A minimum, so potentially up to $640,000 just to comply in the first year.
Wow. Just for software and consultants.
Yep. For a rule that is incredibly complex and non-standardized, that kind of mandated complexity, well, it ensures huge paydays for the firms with the right connections.
And it connects right back to that theme of distrust.
Absolutely. But this breakdown, this realization that the external systems are flawed, it forces a really crucial internal shift.
You have to move away from relying on external authority.
And you transition toward internal validation, towards consciousness and critical thinking.
So we pivot from the institutional collapse to the tools we need to handle this data deluge.
Exactly. And that journey starts with a sharp focus on language, on definitions. One source calls it informatica.
Okay, what's the philosophy there?
The premise is that everything in reality is, quote, nothing but information. So if reality is information,
Then the words we use to define it are everything.
precisely. If you let definitions become unclear, ambiguous, you get confusion, chaos, and consternation.
So the takeaway for someone listening is to build your own filters.
You have to. You need clear personal information filters to manage the deluge and make sure you're working from solid ground.
Which brings us to consciousness itself. And it's framed here not as a thing you have, but as a process.
A process of inquiry. In this model, consciousness is the asking of questions, not the having of answers.
Which is tied to the paradox of curiosity.